This week on Talkin Central Arizona Sports, game recaps as the winter sports season heads toward the holiday break. Hello everyone, my name is Torrence Dunham and welcome to a weekly podcast catching you up on the latest with Central Arizona sports teams. Part of Talking Glass Media's Cast 11 podcast network, the show features game previews and recaps along with interviews with coaches and players and much more. The show starts this week with Bradshaw Mountain boys basketball, who won their sixth consecutive game with a 41-35 victory over Deer Valley on Wednesday. It was a nail-biting final few minutes as Deer Valley stormed back from a double-digit halftime deficit to tie the game up at 35 late in the fourth quarter. But the Bradshaw Mountain defense held the Skyhawks scoreless for the final 3 minutes and 42 seconds of the contest to earn the 6-point win. Here's head coach Kane Atkinson.
I'm speechless. I'm very proud of this group of guys. I'm very proud of this program. It came down to toughness and resiliency. That's kind of been what we've been talking about and going for since this summer. All the props to Deer Valley. I think that they're a great group and they're one of the best coaches.
Bradshaw Mountain used their size and quickness to cause problems for the Deer Valley offense in those final few minutes, especially in the paint. Here's Bradshaw Mountain senior Ben Wilder, who led the team with 12 points in the win.
I think we really stuck to our strengths because we're a bigger team, so hands up, packing the lane, just trying to make it as hard for them as possible. And when something went wrong, scrambling as quick as we can to get back in it.
Mason Hunt added 9 points. Caden Reed, Dante Landis, and Amari Lawrence each had 6 points, while Mauricio Holgan added 2. Bradshaw Mountain continued the hot streak on Friday at home, beating Mojave 53-15 as region play got underway. Caden Reed led the Bears in that one with 12 points, while Ben Wilder and Amari Lawrence each had 8 points. They sit at 7-0 overall and 1-0 in the region as they get a break before the Winter Hoop Shootout on December 27th. As for the girls' basketball team, they went 1-1 last week with a loss to Deer Valley, but got region play started with a 45-20 win over Mojave. Ellie Bennett led the Bears with 16 points, while Giselle Serrano had 10 points in that one. The team is 1-5 overall, but 1-0 in the region as they get a break before playing in the Prescott Lady Badgers Winter Classic on December 29th and 30th. Over to Bradshaw Mountain girls soccer now, as the team couldn't keep up with Saguaro on the road Friday in an 8-0 loss. However, they faced the tough proposition of competing against the defending 4A Desert Sky champions, while some key pieces battled injuries or illness, resulting in the team only bringing 15 players to the matchup. The lack of depth caught up with Bradshaw Mountain in the later part of each half, where the SaberCats did a majority of their damage on offense. Trailing 5-0 at halftime, with 4 of those goals coming in a 13-minute time span near the end of the first half, the Bears held Saguaro scoreless for the first 24 minutes of the second half. However, the SaberCats broke through and added to their lead with a goal in the 64th minute before scoring 2 more in the following 5 minutes to end the game. Here's head coach John Sterling.
The girls played really well. Most of that second half, we held them, we frustrated them. But when we don't have a real deep bench to go to and you only got 2 or 3 players, you get tired. And that's the biggest thing, we got tired. But we learned a lot tonight, and that's the key. This will pay dividends real good ball going control, forward. Real good ball
Saguaro
movement.
controlled the ball for the majority of the game and only allowed Bradshaw Mountain a shot at the goal on a penalty
they just dropped
kick.
it back. And that's something we've worked on a lot and we need to learn to do. Drop it back to our defenders, our 3 or 4 defenders, and drop it back. And that's what they did. You'd see it. They would just drop it back, cycle it through, and then maybe come up the other side. And they were real good at just probing where they wanted to go and try and find that gap. And then they would go forward, and then if they didn't have it, they'd drop it back again. So that was what they were real good. They literally would run up, see they were covered, and they turn around and go backwards. And that's a sign of a good team.
Bradshaw Mountain midfielder Charlize Ngaglia was proud of her team's efforts considering the circumstances coming into the game.
I think that my team just plays with a lot of heart. We don't give up when it gets tough. We fought till the very end. They challenged us. They pushed us. They pushed our limits. but I just think that we left our hearts on the field. I think that every girl on my team has passion. There's only 15 of us, but it's full of heart, it's full of passion, and that's why we're here.
The team also struggled on Monday night at home against Paradise Honors, losing 7-0. At 1-4 overall, they returned to the field after the holidays for a matchup with Eastmark at home on January 5th. The boys soccer team, meanwhile, kept their good start to the season rolling as they picked up a 3-1 win on Monday over Paradise Honors to improve their record to 4-0 overall. They next play the Tempe Buffaloes on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at home before getting a break and returning to play on the road January 5th against Eastmark. We'll whip around the rest of Central Arizona's teams, but first, winter is nearly here, as while the temperatures have dipped to freezing, the official start of the season is this Wednesday. Can your heater handle the full season of winter? It's time to schedule a tune-up today with Yavapai Plumbing and Heating. All the info you need is at ypeinc.com. That's ypeinc.com. Welcome back to Talkin Central Arizona Sports. Thanks for giving this podcast a listen. It's time to whip around Central Arizona sports teams and get you caught up on previous results and what's to come. The Bradshaw Mountain Boys Wrestling team went 2-1 on Wednesday with wins over Cactus Shadows and Raymond Kellis to improve to 7-2 on the season. They next compete on December 30th and 31st at the Mile High Challenge at the Findlay Toyota Center. The girls wrestling team will also compete in the Mile High Challenge at the Findlay Toyota Center in Prescott Valley. Over to Prescott High School now as the boys basketball team beat Tempe last week 83-56 to improve to 4-1 overall. Uriah Tennette had 29 points in the win, while Jake Hilton had 22. They next compete in the Judy Dixon Boys Basketball Tournament December 26th to 29th at Greenway High School. The girls basketball team also got a win against Tempe last week, 56-10, to improve to 3-2 overall. They next play in the Prescott Lady Badgers Winter Classic on December 29th and 30th. The boys soccer team earned a 1-0 win against Seton Catholic Prep last week for their first win of the season as they improved to 1-2 overall. After the holidays, they returned to action on January 5th against Greenway at home at 5 p.m. The girls soccer team also beat Seton Catholic Prep last week 6-2 and improved to 2-0 on the season. They also returned to play after the holidays against Greenway, but on the road January 5th at 6 p.m. The boys wrestling team will also be competing in the Mile High Challenge on December 30th and 31st at the Findlay Toyota Center. Over to Chino Valley as the Cougars basketball teams are still looking for their first wins of the season. The boys team lost to Sedona last week 45-13 and fall to 0-5 overall, while the girls team also lost to Sedona 68-24 and fall to 0-5 as well. The girls team next plays in the Yvonne Johnson Memorial Shootout on December 27th and 28th, while the boys return to action January 3rd at home against Fountain Hills at 7 p.m. The Chino Valley boys wrestling team will also be competing in the Mile High Challenge on December 30th and 31st at the Findlay Toyota Center. Over to collegiate sports now, as both the Roughriders men's and women's basketball teams are on break for the holidays. The men return to the court in the Pima Classic against Frank Phillips and Eastern Wyoming on December 29th and 30th. The women, after an 84-28 win against Phoenix last week, next play Cochise on the road January 4th. The women are 6-5 overall and 3-2 in the conference, while the men are 3-8 overall and 1-4 in the conference. The Embry-Riddle basketball teams are also headed toward a break as the men's team plays against Taylor on a Wednesday and then against Arizona Christian on December 31st, both at home. The women next play Hastings at home on Tuesday at 1 p.m. and then won't return to the court for game action until January 3rd against Park Gilbert, also at home. The women's team is 7-5 overall and 3-2 in the conference, while the men's team is 4-6 overall and 2-3 in the conference. The men's wrestling team last week won against Marion 25-9, but lost to Morningside 39-10. They also finished 14th with 31 points in the Reno Tournament of Champions. They next compete against Arizona Christian on December 31st at the Findlay Toyota Center. As I do every week, I'll end the show by giving my thoughts on some state sports. Well, not like it's been clear for months now, but Sunday's Arizona Cardinals loss to the Denver Broncos mathematically eliminated the Cardinals from playoff contention. From on-field issues to off-field issues to the devastating injuries and consistent questionable decisions by ownership, the front office, and the head coach, This has been an awful season for the team, and it's a real shame that it had to happen this year, in a year in which the Cardinals will once again host the Super Bowl. Imagine what could have been if this team had finally won it all in front of the home crowd, playing as the third consecutive Super Bowl host to have their team play in the big game, while the cameras of HBO's Hard Knocks followed the team around. It could have vaulted the Cardinals into a level not many teams could match. Instead, they will go quietly into the offseason, with their fans hoping for losses in order to get a better draft position, so that maybe one day, when the Super Bowl does eventually return to the desert, the Cardinals could put forth a better effort than this season. I'm Torrence Dunham, and this has been Talkin Central Arizona Sports, part of Talking Glass Media's Cast 11 podcast network. Come on back next week for a special episode of the show, looking back at the football seasons of Bradshaw Mountain and Prescott High School, as head coaches Bob Young and Cody Collette join the show. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday.